My grandfather was a case in that study. He worked as a firefighter where the Tuskegee Airmen trained. He and I were phenomenally close. The syphilis study happened for 40 years. Penicillin was found to be the most effective treatment, but the men were denied the treatment. Interestingly enough, I've had someone tell me that they were concerned about getting the vaccine because of the syphilis study. And I always, try to educate or provide some information about what happened. But then I said, you're talking about something that happened to my family. And I've taken both of my vaccines. I'm doing this for them. Health is greater than wealth, and it's really up to us to take ownership of our health and this story.
Nope. Nope.
Come on, him?
Ooh, I like him.
Quick, the quicker picker-upper. Bounty picks up messes quicker, and each sheet is 2 times more absorbent, so you can use less.
He's an 8.
He's a 9.
Bounty, the quicker picker-upper.
A pleasant good morning, everyone, and welcome to another edition of the Coles Brown Show. Watched exclusively, heard and watched right here on the Black College Sports Network. Yours truly, Coles Brown, on a huge Saturday, not only in the Southwestern Athletic Conference, but HBCU football. Of course, Jackson State traveling to Huntsville, game of the week in the conference. I believe everyone will agree with me. Also, if you want to look at perhaps the second most interesting game, will be Grambling State at Alcorn State. But here on the guest menu, it looks like this. Ryan McGinty, Sports Information Director at Texas Southern University. He jumps in on the Coles Brown Show preview. Give us an update on Texas Southern and Southern University. Today at 4 p.m. in Arlington, Texas, the Arlington Showdown, the inaugural game. He'll give us his perspective. And, Ryan McGinty is never a loss for words. He'll give his opinion, his perspective on that ball game. Then, following Ryan McGinty will be Morrell Mo Carter of WZDX Fox 54. He jumps in on Coles Brown Show and giving a perspective on Alabama A&M hosting Jackson State is homecoming. By the way, homecoming at Alcorn State as well. Then in hour number 2, Brandon B.J. Jones of Inside HBCU Football, he'll join me audio only. He's at a great venue. I'll let him tell you about that. But he'll join me. He'll reveal his top 5. That's his top 5 poll. Black college football. That'll be interesting. I guess you can agree, disagree, what have you. Then last but not least, as usual, a SWAC sports report with Charles Edmond of the Alcorn State Radio Network. So that's the guest menu on today's Coles Brown Show, October the 9th, 2021. Let's simply get into it right now. Enjoyed the dialogue last week with the Southern Knights, SWAC Knights, talking about Skelton being replaced as the starter at Southern University. And since that time, Bubba McDaniels, Glenn McDaniels, he has been set aside now as starter again. And we had an interesting conversation. We talked about a dual threat quarterback and just my definition of what a dual threat quarterback is. And I'll give it to you again, just my definition of a dual threat quarterback. It's a quarterback that can do both equally well. That means he can make all the throws, he can go through his progressions, he can run the offense. He's the point guard on the football team. He controls everything offensively. And then the second part of that definition is just quite simply when he can't make the throws, or if everything is covered, then he is athletic enough that he can produce a positive play with his athleticism or his legs. So to me, a dual threat quarterback is a quarterback that can do both equally well. He can do both. He can do both. Now, talking with, I guess, my best friend this past week and some close associates, they thought the term would be an athletic quarterback is another term. And an athletic quarterback is simply an athlete at the quarterback position. To say all this, to say this, Southern University now, in my humble opinion, in the offensive coordinator, Coach Grossi, I think they're going to utilize still Skelton at quarterback, but you'll see him like the Saints use Taysom Hill. I believe, and it's just my opinion, you'll see him at running back, at quarterback. You may even see him at wide receiver. You've got to utilize his athleticism. And I think for Southern University, developing a special package for Skelton, and you'll see Skelton and McDaniels in the game at the same time. So that is going to be real interesting how going forward Southern University gets things done on an offensive standpoint. They had an open date, and Coach Rollins talked about it could not have come at a better time. Defensively, you had several players with bumps and bruises. You'll get all of those back, as well as some on the offensive side. But they're going to face a Texas Southern football team coming off a big victory over North American University. And I'll be honest, never heard of North American University, but they win their homecoming last week, 69-0. Maybe Ryan McGinty can give us some more information on North American University. But if you also could look at Texas Southern switch quarterbacks, and against Rice, the week before, and they were able to put up all those just about 500 yards of total offense playing up. To me, this Texas Southern team is very dangerous. And I will just say this, Southern University, their offensive line is one of the best offensive lines on the FCS level. They're going to have to establish themselves today. They're going to have to run the football. And I look for them to do that, run the football, mix it in with the passing routes. I think they're going to have to be balanced on offense, but they're going to establish the run. And the best way to keep Texas Southern's explosive offense off of the field is for Southern University to be able to run the football, control the line of scrimmage. And we talked about a couple of weeks ago how this football team, in my humble opinion, has been consistently inconsistent. defensively, they gave up over 400 yards to Miles College. Credit to Miles College. They came in and well-coached football team. Then against McNeese, they only gave up, 263 total yards in a losing effort. Of course, some injuries against Mississippi Valley State. They were able to get some yards against Southern University. So when you look at this team going forward, they've got to be consistent. And they've got to win each week. Today is week that they've got to win. Next week, they're on the road against Arkansas Pine Bluff. They can't be looking ahead. They've got to. They really have to take care of business today against Texas Southern University. So Ryan McGinty will preview Texas Southern University. Morrell Carter will preview the Alabama A&M Jackson State game. We'll also look at the SWAC standings, and you're starting to see that race develop with Prairie View leading the Western Division. They're undefeated. Southern University undefeated. Alcorn State undefeated in the Western Division. These races are going to be tremendous races going forward. And as you get deeper into October, you're going to have some tough ball games. You're going to meet the cream of the crop in the divisions. Jackson State and Alabama A&M. The winner of this game will have a leg up. And boy, Alabama A&M last week turned the ball over on consecutive series. And they were at Grambling State University. Grambling State went with a new quarterback, the freshman sensation. Grambling State took advantage of those turnovers, and they were able to upset Alabama A&M. Was it a case of Alabama A&M looking ahead to Jackson State? I don't know. But was it a case of Grambling State University taking advantage of turnovers and taking advantage of that and able to go in and get the victory at home? So when you look at all of these equations, and probably a little bit of all of them, where Grambling State's able to go in at home and defeat Alabama A&M. Now today they take on Alcorn State on the reservation. It simply should be interesting. B.J. Jones in hour number 2 gives his top 5 football teams in HBCU football, and of course Charles Edmond, the Southwestern Athletic Conference Sports Report. Going to take a quick time out. When I come back, I'm scheduled to visit with Ryan McGinty. He's on the road, I guess, to Arlington, Texas, but he's scheduled to join me next. You're watching the Coles Brown Show on the Black College Sports Network.
Oh, that spin class was brutal. Well, you can try using the Buick's massaging seat. Oh, yeah, that's nice.
Can I use Apple CarPlay to put some music on?
Sure, it's wireless.
Pick something we all like. Okay, hold on. What's your Buick's Wi-Fi password?
Buick Envision 2021.
Oh, you should pick something stronger. That's really predictable.
That's a really tight spot. Don't worry, I used to hate parallel parking.
Me too.
Hey.
Really outdid yourself.
Yes, we did.
The all-new Buick Envision, an SUV built around you, all of you.
This is the Dean of the College of HBCU Sports, Kenyatta Cavill of Dr. Cavill's Inside the HBCU Sports Lab with Mike Washington and Charles Bishop. Come mix it up in the lab where the course lecture is in session every Tuesday from 6 o'clock p.m. Central Standard Time on Facebook Live, YouTube Spreaker, or the BCSN app, as we discuss all things about the HBCU sports culture, including exploring the week that was in the sporting HBCU diaspora, as well as the upcoming week of HBCU sports. With me, the Dean, the College of HBCU Sports, on Dr. Cavill's Inside the HBCU Sports Lab with Mike Washington and Charles Bishop. Course lecture dismissed.
Let's get back to strolling instead of scrolling. Before we can safely come together, we need the facts on COVID-19 vaccines. Visit getvaccineanswers.org so you can make an informed decision for yourself and for your fam.
It's like a loop machine.
This is the BCSN Pod Zone, your place for the news, views, and conversations about all things related to HBCU athletics. Here the BCSN Sports Wrap, Dr. Cavill's Inside the HBCU Sports Lab, Knights of the Round Table, the pregame show, the Carlos Brown Show, the ONG, Strike Zone, and more in one place. We are changing the way you consume HBCU sports, one broadcast at a time.
It's like a loop machine. Going around town, people trying to get down.
Welcome back to this week's edition of the Carlos Brown Show, right here on the Black College Sports Network. Yours truly, Carlos Brown, making some adjustments here. I'm going to visit now with Brandon B.J. Jones, and then I'm going to add Ryan McGinty, Sports Information Director at Texas Southern University. He will be joining me as well. And we'll talk with Mo Carter. He'll be joining us as well. B.J., good morning to you. Wait for BJ. BJ, good morning. Well,
hey,
BJ.
Hey, good afternoon. Good morning.
There you go. How you doing, BJ?
Hello.
Yes, I was asking how you doing.
Hello.
On this. Can you hear me? Yeah, okay. We're gonna try to get.
Man, doing pretty good. Man, how's it going?
We're doing all right. Big week here in the Southwestern Athletic Conference. You got some big games, of course. Everyone is talking about Jackson State at Alabama A&M. Alabama A&M's homecoming. And then also you can also look at a Grambling State football team coming off the upset of Alabama A&M. Hosting at Alcorn State. What do you think about that, BJ? Some huge games. Well, let's see Ryan McGinty. Ryan.
Hey, how you doing, Carlos? Can you hear me?
How you doing, man? I appreciate it. I know you're traveling to the destination Arts in Texas. How's it been for you?
Oh, good. I'm traveling with two legends. I don't know if I should put the phone on them because I don't want to expose how they travel. In Devin Wade and Larry Chatterbox Hale. So it's my first trip with them, ironically, for the first time. So it's well, we about a few hours in, and it's been entertaining to say the least.
How far is that trip for you guys, going from Houston to Arlington?
About we'll say 4 hours, but today obviously you're dealing with the Cowboys game this weekend. UT Oklahoma is going on right now in Dallas, and and there's only basically two ways in Dallas, 45 north, and if you're coming from Waco, 35, and then you got Alabama and Texas A&M tonight. So all your alternate route is taken also. So it's about 4 hours on a good day. Could be 5 and 6 on a bad day.
Well, an interesting game in the Southwestern Athletic Conference, a Western Division game, Texas Southern and Southern University. Texas Southern coming off of a win over North American University, a change of quarterback a couple of weeks ago against Rice, and Texas Southern almost 500 yards of total offense. Why, Ryan, should we be very nervous if you're a Southern University fan? Because Texas Southern University offensively, they have been doing well as of late.
Well, if I can go back about 3 years ago, well, it was 21, yeah, 3 years ago, when Skelton, remember when he first hit the scene, and I want to say it could have been Pine Bluff or somebody, and he was a dual threat guy, can throw the ball, change the whole kind of trajectory of Southern offense that year. He is a run pass option. I think Rice saw it. We didn't really need to see too much of it as he only played one half, but Rice got the full dose of him. Entertaining player to watch. You don't know when he's going to pull it and run for 50 yards or he'll throw it. And, wide receiver Keelan Davis has come on fire late. Like Chatterbox would say, 5 beta signals on. Number 10 is our wideout. But the biggest thing is, if you go back since 2018 or 2017, I pulled up the stats the other day, we've seen every quarterback on Southern's roster. In the Lampley kid, Bubba McDaniel, and Skelton. And all of them has had some kind of role when TSU and Southern has played. Outside of the game last year, which got away from us in the second half, the 2019 game came down to a fumble or interception late when we were trying to tie the game. And then the year before, it was like 18-7. It was a very ugly game in Dallas. So I think history said it's going to be close, especially at a neutral site. And so that should be one reason why I think fans should, we're excited about it. And then now we got someone that's helping us move the ball and we having some success offensively. So we can just, have that and then our defense make some stops when needed. I think, the game could be very, very interesting to say the least.
I agree. Visiting with Ryan McGinty, Sports Information Director at Texas Southern University. Andrew, how you pronounce the last name? Body. Okay. I'm from South Louisiana. That could have actually been Bodie, but Andrew Body changed quarterback, freshman from Corpus Christi, Texas. What is the difference between him and Jalen Brown? I remember Jalen Brown, but apparently Andrew Body has all of the ingredients of being an outstanding quarterback.
The difference is pretty much if you look at both of them, one is a thicker quarterback, which is Brown, and Body is a little slimmer. Maybe about, let's say, I'm just going to estimate Body could be 190. Brown's about 240. Brown's more your traditional pocket guy, can make all the throws. It's just, in the SWAC sometimes, how that go in terms of a pocket guy. But you give him time, he can make it pay. You saw his first game ever was against Southern when he was pressing action. If you watch the old movie, was it Any Given Sunday, Jamie Foxx character? He was sitting back in the rear. That was Jalen Brown against Southern last year. He was reading the newspaper against Prairie View. The next thing you know, he was bumped up to first string after 2 injuries. So it's just one of those deals where it's a great problem to have. Where we got 2 great options at quarterback. And even if we got to go to our third option, he was a transfer from Jackson State, Brandon Mallory. So we have 3 experienced quarterbacks on the roster.
Brian, it seems to be, and maybe you could help me out with this, because even Texas Southern, just the description you've given, you have dual threat quarterbacks or athletes at quarterback. Then you have the pocket passer. You look at the Kill Glass, pocket passer. Do you think in the future you're going to see a little bit of both quarterbacks, or is the trend still going to be a dual threat quarterback in this conference?
You better have 2 to 3 regardless, because you never know when they all be pressed action. Football quarterbacks, because you just never know. But I think the future, one time, everybody wanted to spread quarterback. Everybody, you saw the Kendrick Noor types. Then you saw the Steve McNair types. And then so I I think it just all depends on your personnel, what's available to you, and how good your line is. Because I think some coaches would love to have that one type quarterback, but the way this football sport works now, you better have 2 or 3, and you just have to adjust to their strengths if you want to be successful in the SWAC. Because this is a quarterback-driven league. You know that at Southern, and I was there as a student when the Jacoby Sam George deal happened in '95 and in '96, and you made adjustment with Jacoby, and Southern went 7-4 that year, lost to TSU, I remember, and then the next year went 11-1 with both quarterbacks playing. So you better just be ready to go because you never know when you got to use them. Then you had Troy Williams came right after that, and he was kind of a hybrid also.
Right. Well, Coach McKinney has, I'm sure, his defensive coordinator. I'm going to say that he's prepared to face both. Did he say this past week is they're going to be prepared for both? And is there one or other that Coach McKinney and this Texas Southern defense feels more comfortable facing?
I think they're just preparing for whoever's out there. Like I said, the good thing, we've seen all quarterbacks because McDaniel threw for 252 yards off the bench in 2019. And then last year, we saw Skelton. Then Lampley, some few guys on defense have seen him. They didn't see McKinney, have not seen him. But I think in this situation, we're preparing for whoever's out there. I'll be honest with you. Because, in this, like you said, you may end up seeing both indirectly anyway. And history says you will see 2 quarterbacks for Southern and TSU.
Ryan, how about seeing on Southern's part, McDaniels and Skelton in on some plays at the same time?
I'm just SID. I don't worry about the scheme.
Oh, come on.
Anyone that follows Southern's offense knows Skelton, and you read the message boards. Everyone knows I've heard Skelton referred to as everything. So you may see him something else. Some people said his next level of ability is going to be at another position. So, I wouldn't be surprised if any smart OC worth they will find a way to put the best athletes on the field at the same time.
Interesting. Visiting with Ryan McGinty, Sports Information Director at Texas Southern University. We appreciate the time, Ryan. Yeah, I know you're traveling. Last thing for you. If Texas Southern is to win the ball game, 3 things that they're going to have to do, in your humble opinion, and at the end of the day, Texas Southern wins. What 3 things Texas Southern must do?
Well, not to sound coach speakish, but obviously we need to score. That's the main thing. We got to score. Secondly, we got to make stops on defense at crucial times. Southern's offense is explosive, so I'm not expecting us to do what we did last week when we held them to 29 yards of offense or something like that. That we know that. But we got to make stops at the right time and get turnovers, kind of like we did against Rice, which we was 1 turnover away from making it a 1-possession game. We could have punched it in early in the 4th quarter. And third, we just got to not let our emotions get to us. When you go down, let's say we go down 14 points, can't put our head down and expect, and let the game get away. I think we learned at Rice that was a big thing that happened. We went down early. One thing I liked about McKinney and staff, they did not have our heads stay down long. They came right back up. We hit on some big plays. We right back in the game against Rice, Division I opponent. And look how it held Rice. They turned around and beat Southern Miss last week. I don't know if that's saying much, but we could play with that caliber opponent, and I think the momentum and the will was there. McKinney did mention the locker room has changed in a matter of a week because of a win. If we get all those elements, I think that could help us for the game. That's our 3 keys to winning. And I guess let me throw this also into and get our band going, because we know there's a rivalry on the field between Brian Simmons, our new band director, and Southern's director. We can get our band, get that thing going and keep that jukebox shut. I think that's the 4th key no one's talking about. So you get all those 4 keys, I think that'll bode well in our favor.
Right, I always smile. The human jukebox influence is just outstanding through this conference. And even you, Ron, you know, that Louisiana flavor. So I'm congratulating you because you were being very nice today. Sometimes, you know, you can throw a rock and hide your hand.
that was my younger days. But hey, I'll tell you, I'm fall 96 Southern Human Jukebox. So I did 2 years under Dr. Greg. So that holds a special place in my heart when it comes to the band over there. So I tell people, I got 60 hours at Southern University. Finished up at Prairie View, but I grew up watching TSU and I'm working at TSU. So I'm back home, but I you know, it's about the ocean today. You know, I want this win. You know, if I was 22, I might say something different, but things have changed in my life. But I just appreciate being on your platform and looking forward to a good game today. You know, we'll have Chatterbox back on here next Saturday.
Well, I tell you what, tell Chatterbox he's famous, but he's got to answer back in time. And Delvin Wade, look forward to working with everybody. Appreciate the time, Ryan. Be safe, you guys, on your travel, and we'll talk again real soon.
We'll be ready at 11:15 Saturday.
All right. Thanks a lot, Ryan. Appreciate the time.
Thank you, Carlos. Have a good weekend.
All right, you too. We're going to take a time out. I'm scheduled to join with Morel Mo Carter coming up next, but we'll take a quick time out. You're watching the Carlos Brown Show on the Black College Sports Network.
Thank you guys for what you do for HBCU athletics. This is a fantastic avenue for all of us. This is our ESPN, so we love what you guys do. Brian, AD, Roy, all you guys at BCSN. We really appreciate what it is that you guys do for us.
Supermarket sushi, really?
No. Wait, Troy, you work here?
I'm never not working. Like Head & Shoulders Scalp Shield technology, up to 100% dandruff protection, even between washes.
Never not working, huh?
Oh, Troy, you're such a good teacher.
Yeah, I know. Never not working. Never not working. Never, ever not working.
Are you serious?
Never not working. Dandruff protection that's never not working. Head & Shoulders Scalp Shield technology.
From novice to aficionado, find yourself here. High quality cigars plus personal customer service. Slow Burn is Waco's only mobile cigar lounge, featuring a meticulous, curated collection of premium cigars. Visit our website, www.slowburnwaco.com. That's www.slowburnwaco.com. Support the Black College Sports Network so we can continue to provide you coverage. Go to myjbn.com/support and be a part of the Black College Sports
Tell everybody
Network.
they can follow their dreams.
Welcome back to this week's edition of the Carlos Brown Show, right here on the Black College Sports Network. Now I'm going to visit with Morel Mo Carter of WZDX Fox Sports 54 in Huntsville. Mo, good morning to you, sir.
Good morning, Carlos. How's it going, my friend?
Man, it's going well. An exciting time in the Southwestern Athletic Conference. And boy, you're right in the cusp of a huge matchup. Jackson State at Alabama A&M homecoming there. And Mo, a lot of conversation but from Coach Maynard. We're not going to spend a whole lot of time on that. It was entertaining, but I like what your report that you had. We're not going to talk about that. We got to actually talk about the game. So, oh, that's the young one, the little one.
Yeah, got the future HBCU star in the building too. Say, hey, Mr. Carlos.
Hey there. Oh, he's growing. Congratulations.
Thank you. But yeah, man, it's after a couple of days of having all jaw-jacking and trash talk here, there, or whatever, I'm like, okay, I got to talk about the game itself. And of course, when it boils all down to it, one of the main things we have to take a look at is how Alabama A&M's offense will stack up against Jackson State's defense. Alabama A&M has the top offense in the Southwestern Athletic Conference, while Jackson State, they lead in several defensive categories in the SWAC on their side of the ball. They have the leading sack leader. I think they have the guy for tackles for loss leader and the second tackle for loss leader, while Alabama A&M has the top receiver, quarterback, running back, and also touchdown maker. So yeah, that I had to go with the X's and O's when it came to that report earlier in the week, just to kind of talk about what the real factors are for that game.
Well, it is, of course, a very important game, and you're absolutely right. It's a Alabama A&M team offensively is a juggernaut. Jackson State, the best defense in the conference. Is it the immovable object against the irresistible force? Can we put it in that notion for this ball game today at 2 p.m., Mo?
Absolutely. I think it really just boils down to that, because at the end of the day, we know what both these units are the strongest for their teams. Now, look, I'm not discrediting Jackson State's offense or whatever, or Alabama A&M's defense, who everybody thinks Alabama A&M's defense is straight garbage, but when you look at the stats, they're actually kind of middle of the pack, and they've made some plays when they need to make. But, the headliners is the A&M offense against Jackson State's defense. And even when you go a little bit further for the head coaches, think about it. Connell Maynard, was a all-star quarterback during his MEAC days and also during the arena football days. And we also know what Coach Deion Sanders, Coach Prime, was in his playing days. So he even goes as far as that when you look at the offense versus the defense. I think the big thing is going to be who is going to get the upper hand and who can find a way to basically steal a possession, or who's able to jump on top or whatever and then create more momentum. I think those are going to be some of the key factors we're going to see today in this big old game.
Well, it's interesting, and you brought up Alabama A&M defensively, if I can, because I think it's going to be questions to be asked, answered in this ball game. Can Alabama A&M's defense, although middle of the pack, can they step it up a notch? Can Jackson State get their running game going? Because I'm sure they're going to want to keep Alabama A&M's explosive offense off the field and limit their possessions. But let me go back, if I can, Mo. Last week, turnover city for Alabama A&M. I guess this is a legitimate question. Was Alabama A&M kind of looking ahead to this ball game, or was it just that Grambling State took advantage of those turnovers and they were able to take advantage of it, or was it a combination of both? Last week.
So, Carlos, it was a true combination of both. This week and last week, I have the opportunity of, hosting Coach Maynard's football recap show and, just talking about those things or whatever. And he basically broke it down. He was like, look, he told his team, you got a huge October ahead of you. However, this Grambling team is better than what it looks like on paper. And you and I both know strange things happen when teams go to Eddie Robinson Stadium, especially when Grambling is basically almost down in their luck and they need some type of momentum to boost them moving forward. So that's what kind of ended up happening or whatever. He admitted that his coaching staff probably didn't do the best job of keeping their guys motivated moving forward for what was going to happen on last Saturday. Now you take that plus the fact that Grambling State, they looked at the tape that Tuskegee had against against Alabama A&M, and they were like, okay, look, if Tuskegee can do it, we can kind of do it too. Our good friend A.D. Drew from the BCSN Sports Wrap had kind of talked about that as well. So Tuskegee kind of put together a nice little blueprint of what you can do to kind of knock Alabama A&M off their course when it came to either the delayed blitzes or getting your hands up, blocking the batting balls down, and just finding ways to steal momentum, even stealing possessions on sky kicks and onside kicks. So Coach Fobbs and Coach Graves, got to give Coach Graves a whole lot of props or whatever. You know how close he and I were during the days when we were both at Southern University. They did a really, really good job game planning for Alabama A&M. And then Grambling State's team, you have to give them props. You have to go ahead and say that they played their best ball when they needed to be against a Alabama A&M team that was a high favorite. And here's the thing. At the end of the day, Carlos, there is no way in the world that you're going to turn over the ball 6 times and have a high percentage of winning a championship. And it's kind of funny because Grambling had a chance to put the game away, and then they threw an interception with about 2 minutes to go. And I'm sitting there like, okay, Aquil Glass is going to eliminate all this and then go down the field, lead them to a touchdown. Well, what does Grambling do? They followed their blueprint. They had delayed blitzes. They got their hands up, tip ball, interception, ball game on ice right then and there. So, yeah, they did a lot of good things against Alabama A&M, and I think that's really made the Bulldogs realize that, hey, we're invincible. And also, they need to step up the game from that. One thing I can say, I was at practice earlier this week for Alabama A&M, and with them on that, one thing I can tell you is that for Alabama A&M, they seem to be quite focused. They were very, very focused.
Well, I think from the outside looking in, a couple of key matchups, because we've talked about Jackson State and just the pressure that they bring. They play a lot of, in their pass defense, a lot of man-to-man coverage. How important Alabama A&M's offensive line versus Jackson State defense. Mo, can we say that's one of the first matchups that we're going to look at in this ball game?
Absolutely. You have to find a way, if you're Alabama A&M, to protect Aquil Glass at all costs. I'll be honest with you. Aquil Glass will probably have about 3 seconds, maybe 4 tops to get his passes off today because Jackson State's front 4 knows how to push the narrative and knows how to get pressure up front. So I think Alabama A&M has been able to look at that, and because they are looking at that, they're going to be able to either counteract that or, I hate to say it or whatever, if Jackson State gets the upper hand, then things may not turn out too well for Alabama A&M. But that's the main thing they're looking at. And I think the next thing is after that is protecting the football. I mean, we just talked about the 6 turnovers last week. They got to protect the football. So, yeah, first thing is protecting Glass within that front with the guys in the trenches, and then protecting the football. I think those are the first 2 narratives you have to take a look at when it comes to that offense against the defense.
And also, I look at Jackson State on offense. Of course, they rely on Sure Sanders a lot in the passing game, but their rushing attack has been anemic this year. Will Mo Carter go, uh-oh, if Jackson State is, let's say, averaging at least 3 or 4 yards running the football? Because I'm a person that believes you just got to be able to be balanced offensively. But Mo, are you going to say, uh-oh, if you see Jackson State averaging 3 to 4 yards rushing the football today?
Oh, absolutely. I can say, uh-oh, I can raise my eye like rock or whatever when it comes to it, because Jackson State has not done a good job running the football this year. Even in his press conference earlier this week, Coach Deion Sanders said it himself. He was like, look, we've got to run the football efficiently. I mean, Shadur's been putting up good numbers, but if they don't have some sort of balance, then at the end of the day, they've got to find a way to, run the football, or they're going to, throw Shadur's arm out to death, to be honest with you. So, yeah, they've got to find a way to run the football. And I don't think it's just Jackson State that has to find a way to run the football. Alabama A&M's got to do a better job, too. They've got Gary Quarles, the leading rusher in the SWAC. He got nicked up in about the second quarter last week against Grambling, and all of a sudden we see Aquil Glass throw 62 times. So, honestly, it's both teams that's going to have to find a way to run the football, and that's how he kind of help control the line of scrimmage.
Good point. I'm visiting with Mo Carter, WZDX, Fox 54 in Huntsville, previewing from his perspective, Jackson State at Alabama A&M. Mo, who's the most pressure? Who's under the most pressure? Is it Coach Maynard and the offensive staff, or the defensive staff? And then TC Taylor, now reports have come out that he's going to be the new offensive coordinator or calling the plays. Who has the most pressure?
Honestly, I think the pressure is more on Alabama A&M, and primarily because of this. For them, Coach Maynard has said it best in our media session with him early in the week. Every game for Alabama A&M moving forward is a playoff type game because they can't afford to lose another game. Sure, the Grambling game was a loss to a non-divisional foe or whatever, but at the same time, you know how the conference breakdowns go. And if it boils down to, let's say Alabama A&M falls to Jack State or whatever, all of a sudden they've got 2 losses in the L column, and while Jackson State still doesn't have a loss in the swag column, so all of a sudden you have to rely on other people to get you back into the race. So truly, I really think it is a bigger situation, a bigger pressure cooker for Alabama A&M overall, not just whatever side of the staff of the ball it is, offense or defense. It's like the whole entire team, especially if they want to repeat as a division champ, go to the SWAC championship, and go to the Celebration Bowl. Now, I will be remiss if I did not say that Jackson has a little pressure on them because now they're the #1 team in most of the black college football polls, and it's time for them to go ahead and prove it. How do they prove it? They get a chance to go into the backyard of the team that was the reigning champs and was #1 most of the year. So there's a little bit of pressure on Jackson, but I also say I think more pressure is on Alabama A&M just because of the scenarios and what they got moving forward happening.
And well, correct me if I'm wrong. Next week, boy, now that you can look forward or look ahead, Alabama A&M and FAMU.
Yes, sir.
That's in Huntsville, correct?
Correct.
Wow. You remember last time I think you were on the show, we were talking about the month of October, and if things fell right, Alabama A&M would have a nice path to the Eastern Division Championship. Now, we didn't know that Alabama A&M would trip up against Grambling State University, but again, this month of October is going to be crucial to game today and then next week. Boy, it's just going to be a tough situation for teams both in the Eastern and the Western Division, Mo.
Absolutely. Yeah, I remember the conversation you and I had. I've also had the same conversation on Dr. Cavill's show. I've also had the same conversation with Brian Fulford and AD Drew. And I still believe the month of October will continue to be the road to the SWAC championship for Alabama A&M, but the margin of error is about as small as it can be for Coach Maynard and the Bulldogs. I mean, yeah, they pull off a victory today, then they pull off a victory against Florida A&M next week, and then get their bye week, take on Magic City Classic. We'll take on Alabama State down at the Magic City Classic. Then all of a sudden, Alabama A&M is definitely in the driver's seat, but it still doesn't mean that they have a chance to let up any way, shape, or form, because that one loss to Grambling still could come back to haunt in certain situations. It just really just does depend on how everybody else's schedules roll out. I mean, A&M basically still controls their own destiny, but they got a very, very small margin of error. That's why I've said this multiple times. I think this 2021 SWAC football season is by far one of the best college football seasons we will see on HBCU football probably ever, or at least in quite a long time. And I think I can go back and say maybe the next best one, you got to go back probably either to 1999 or 2003 to see something of this similarity when it comes to the weekend and week out matchup.
I would agree. 1999. I know that season well. We were happy campers. Well, Mo, I appreciate the time. Tell a little fella he did well. We got through the interview, and it's all about making adjustments. And this was a good adjustment. Appreciate the time. I know it's a huge matchup. If you want to, last comments for you here on the Carlos Brown Show.
Sure thing. Well, first and foremost, Carlos, always appreciate you. Always good to talk with you and stuff. And it's always good to see everybody connecting and making some things happen as we continue to cover HBCU sports. One other thing I really want to say real quick about today's game is, there's been a lot of jaw jacking and trash talking and this and that between players and coaches and whatnot. And quite frankly, I love it. I really, really do. Because I really think that all that is really a part of the game. It's not like somebody's going out there from a coach's standpoint and calling out their mama or whatever stuff. Like, it's just pure, it's pure talk. And I kind of feel like you kind of get that old school feel of the SWAC once again. So I really did like all that. But at the end of the day, these young men have to turn around and play a football game on today, which I think may be one of the better games we'll see all year, at least on paper. Now, what ends up happening at 2:00 at Louis Crews Stadium, that will be interesting. But I will say this, for Alabama A&M to win, they've got to protect the football. They got to run the football. And Aquill Glass can't force throws. He cannot do that. For Jackson State, they've got to turn the ball over and get those extra possessions out of Aquill Glass and get the ball in a better position for Shedeur Sanders to work his magic down the field. And sorry about that, phone fell. Work his magic going down the field, because that's what happened last week. Grambling had a freshman quarterback starting for the first time. And what are the best things for you to do when you have a freshman quarterback? Give him great field position. Noah Bowden had great field position, and he did what he was supposed to do to help Grambling's offense succeed against Alabama A&M and score off of all those possessions. So those are the things I'm looking forward to see when it comes to the X's and O's on Saturday, well, on today, actually. And then from there, who can make other things happen in the special teams route as well. So when you kind of look at all that, it's going to be a great game. It's going to be a solid contest for the Southwestern Athletic Conference. Huge game in the East Division. And I would like to say the winner today is going to be in the driver's seat for the East, but at the same time, we still got a lot of season left or whatever with this matchup. But definitely it's going to be a good one here in the Rocket City. And it's also homecoming on the Hill.
What kind of attendance are you expecting? Give me an estimation.
So I'm thinking, according to the way the Jackson State fans been talking, they've been talking like they're coming here with, the mindset of, quote unquote, doing a takeover in Huntsville. Probably as soon as I get off here, I'm going to be heading over to the stadium to see what's happening. I can see an attendance of close to 20, possibly. I know for sure Alabama A&M is going to come in and show out or whatever. I mean, they had a great attendance from the home side when they took on South Carolina State in that opening week. So now you add the ante that it's homecoming and there's a key matchup or whatever taking place today. It could be that. Now, the thing I would love to see it rival the attendance of 1998 when Southern made their trip here to Huntsville. And there's all kind of pictures in the press box that show like people standing on the hills around the stadium. Apparently, the rumor is that they oversold the game for that. Plus, it was homecoming. That was Alabama A&M's transitional year, as they were getting ready to move from the SIAC to the SWAC. So I think at best you're going to see that. If not, you're going to see at least 20, maybe 18 or whatever, but it definitely will depend. But yesterday I did see some Jack State folks in the stores. So they're here. It's just a matter of who else is coming here the rest of the day.
Well, 1998, bring back memories. I still see Alabama A&M's quarterback rushing for almost 200 yards. And Coach Pete Richardson was not a happy camper after the game. That was my only trip to Huntsville. Beautiful area. And today it should be great weather. ESPN Plus, 2 p.m., 2:05. I can't wait. I'll be watching from afar, Mo. Enjoy the rest of your weekend. Tell the little one and the wife hello, and we'll talk again real soon.
All right. Will do, Carlos. As always, appreciate you. You and the guys take care. And, don't forget to look for my recap tonight on multiple social media platforms. Follow me, Twitter @MoCarterFox54. You know how I do. I'll get the highlights up, and hopefully we'll have post-game sound from both coaches. We're going to try for both coaches. No guarantee you're going to get both coaches, but I know for sure I'm going to have one coach for sure, win, lose, or draw.
If he does his Ric Flair imitation, well, I know he's a happy camper. If he doesn't, He may not be a happy camper, but
or he may be just saving it.
Huh? Yeah,
He may just be saving it.
Championship, maybe Eastern Division. Oh well, I'm getting ahead of myself. No, I appreciate it.
Hey, no problem, man. Take care now.
That was Morel Mo Carter, WZDX, Fox 54, Huntsville. Let me do this. A couple of comments from some of the watchers, listeners here. We'll start with Jack. Jack says, we keep talking about Skelton as if he was the problem. But to the real issue is the jury is still out on the coaching staff. Well, let me say this. Ultimately, the coaching staff is going to be held responsible. We're talking about Southern University, and we had a conversation about Skelton. To me, as I said last week, if I'm a defensive coordinator, I know one thing. Skelton is a tremendous athlete. You can't take that away from him. But just in my humble opinion, Jack, it is easier to scheme against Skelton because his deficiency is in the passing game. Now, let's go back. McNeese State. They're up, 21-10, a great first half. The offensive coordinator and the offensive coaches, they put out a game plan that as far as throwing the football, it was the throws that he couldn't make. And he did well. I'll give him credit for that. But in the second half, and when you look at teams that are just as good as Southern University from a talent standpoint in X's and O's, McNeese State made the adjustment. And that adjustment and Southern University and Skelton, no, he doesn't take all of the blame, but he's running the offense. Second half, that interception led to McNeese State going right down the field, maybe 2 plays later and scoring, and their momentum has changed. Yeah, it's ultimately going to be the coaches that are held responsible. But to me, McDaniels, with him running the offense, able to make all of the throws, I think you can really expand your offense. To me, you're kind of limited. No, you're not kind of. You are limited. It's certain things Skelton can't do. So it appears that Jack and some others, Michael, I saw all the comments. You believe that Skelton gives Southern the best chance to win. And Skelton, it's not like Skelton's not going to be involved in the game plan. It's just that you've got to figure out, and you should have by now, Coach Odom's, I guess, had it figured out. He was going hell or high water with Skelton. But how can Skelton be more beneficial and efficient to this offense? Yeah, that's on this coaching staff now. But I'm telling you, to me, Bubba McDaniels gives defensive coordinators more to worry about. And by the way, from an athletic standpoint, he's not bad. Not bad at all. Kind of reminds me of Eric Randall, quarterback at Southern University, stepping on the field in his freshman season. He was able to lead the offense, have a command of the offense as a freshman. And he got better from his freshman to senior year. And if things were not there, he was able to make things happen with his legs. I guess we'll agree to disagree on who is the most effective, but we'll continue, I guess, to have this conversation. And I think someone said, well, the jury's still out. Yeah, on McDaniels. 2 starts, 2 victories, albeit he's going to go up against more competition. But if that offensive line gives him in their pass blocking schemes, the opportunity. He can make every throw. Can Skelton make every throw like McDaniels? Gonna take a timeout, top of the hour break. I'm scheduled to have as guests in the second hour, Brandon B.J. Jones and Charles Edmond. And I'll read some more of your comments. You're watching the Coles Brown Show on the Black College Sports Network.
Can I get the now bar, please?
$1.
Have a good one.
Got it.
Hey, what's going on?
Hey.
Let me get a now bar.
Sure. $1.
Appreciate you.
You got it.
It's the show where we take you inside the game before the game begins. It's the pregame. With your host, Charles Bishop and Neely. So get ready because we pregame harder than the other show's party. It's the pregame.
Charmin Ultra Soft has so much cushiony softness, it's hard for your family to remember they can use less.
Sweet pillows of softness.
This is soft. Holy Charmin. Oh, excuse me. Roll it back, everybody. Sorry.
Charmin Ultra Soft is so cushiony soft, you'll want more, but it's so absorbent, you can use less, so it's always worth it.
Now, what did we learn about using less? You gotta roll it back, everybody.
We all go, why not enjoy the go with Charmin?
Your ad could be ran here. MyJBN.com/support. MyJBN.com/support for more information.
Welcome back to hour number 2 of the Coles Brown Show, exclusively right here on the Black College Sports Network. Now going to visit with Brandon B.J. Jones of Inside HBCU Football via audio. B.J., I guess it's good afternoon now.
Yeah, man. Good afternoon. How's it going, Carlos?
It's going well. We had a little bit of a conversation with Morel Carter, also Ryan McGinty, Sports Information Director at Texas Southern University. Now, we're going to visit with B.J. Jones. Of course, that's you, the star, the football analyst of Inside HBCU Football. B.J., let's get right into it. Some huge matchups today. One being Alabama A&M hosting Jackson State homecoming. Kind of give us your analysis of how this football game may go and what we should be looking at inside this football game.
Can the offensive line of Alabama A&M protect the Keel Glass? Give him time to look downfield and make all the throws. Can the Keel Glass protect the football? We know what he does from a passing standpoint, but he leads the conference in interceptions. And that Alabama A&M receiving core, they're deep with Allaire, Zay Moore, Jenkins. They have, Ibrahim. They are very deep there. Can Jackson State line up and defend all of them? Jackson State's corners are solid and pass coverage. Safeties, not so much. Those safeties are going to be forced to cover today. Can that offensive line give Keel Glass some time to exploit that? And then on the other side of the football, can Alabama A&M keep a Jackson State offense that has been anemic running the football? Can it keep them that way? Or does Jackson State break out the big runs? Because if they do, it's going to be a long day. So I think those are going to be your keys to this ball game. And special teams. Plays to circle around special teams. If Warren Newman is able to have a great day in the special teams, that bodes well for Jackson State.
Well, and those are excellent points, BJ. But I want to go back. Help me out here. Jackson State defensively, #1 in the conference. They play a lot of man coverage, and their front four gets a lot of pressure without having to, blitz all the time to get that pressure. That front four. Question is to you: do you see Jackson State still doing this, playing a lot of man coverage, or will they mix it up in this ball game against the dynamic offensive Alabama A&M?
If I was a guessing man, I would guess that they would have to mix it up. Reason being, this offense is better than any other offense that Jackson State has seen all year. It's not close. So I think with this particular offense, you have to do something different. If you come out and you do what you've done for the entire year, I think you leave yourself vulnerable with that offensive staff with Connell Maynard and Dwayne Taylor. So I think you'll see a few different things.
This with Brandon B.J. Jones of Inside HBCU and football. And then another key component in this ball game, you kind of mentioned it. Jackson State in their run game. Now they got someone else going to be calling the plays, T.C. Taylor. How big of an adjustment is that going to be at this time, making a change, or will it give Jackson State a spark offensively as far as maybe running the football?
I think with Jackson State, I don't think it was the play calling that stopped them from running the football. I think it's been the play of the offensive line. Jackson State, to this point, they averaged, I think, right around 2.3 yards per carry. That's not play calling. That's the offensive line. I do think that change of play callers can give you a little bit of a spark, but that's the spark is this. I'm giving you a new phone, but you still got all the same old contacts still in it. So you're still going to contact the same people. Now, we may change in the order in which you contact them, but it's still going to be the same. So it's going to be interesting. I would say let's wait and see kind of what happens there. But, it's going to be interesting. I don't like the coordinator move in the middle of the year, but, hey, we'll see.
And how can I ask this? With the running game, is that something that maybe a bit week by week can they improve, or because it seems like you're saying the O-line is underperformed, is this something that can get better before the end of the season? That would be the goal, or will you be able to make changes after the season is over?
No, I think with a lot of the offensive line, let's make changes after the season. When you get to this point, the hay is in the middle of the barn. There are certain things that you can scheme, but when it comes down to just man on man, me blocking you and moving some people out of the way as far as the running game, and I can't do that, ain't a lot from a scheme standpoint we can do to fix that. And when you get there, there's more of a personnel issue. So they may have some success today against Alabama A&M, but we'll see. We'll see.
Well, I said in the earlier segment to Mo Carter, would you be worried if a goal for Jackson State would be simply if they can average about 3 to 4 yards running the football today? I asked you the same thing.
Yes. If Jackson State can get to 3 to 4 yards per carry, a place they haven't been all year, absolutely. That is a win. That is a success. And that bodes well for Jackson State.
Well, yeah. Visit with Brandon B.J. Jones of Inside HBCU Football. Another game today that has huge implications, a Western Division matchup. Grambling State coming freshly off of a upset of Alabama A&M. Now they go to the reservation, Lorman, Mississippi, to take on Alcorn State. And BJ, we often talk about Southern's ineptness against Alcorn State, but Grambling State, over the last 10 games, they've had success. But I think it's going to be tough today. Grambling State going to Alcorn State. What's your thoughts and perspective on that ball game today, which starts as well on ESPN Plus at 2 p.m.?
If Grambling can play a solid game defensively, force that offensive line into mistakes. Remember how the offensive line looked that first half against Arkansas Pine Bluff. The pressure they were able to put on Felix Harper. If Grambling's able to duplicate that, be smart on the offensive end, give Noah Biden some easy throws to make, be able to run the football, then we have an interesting contest. But that Alcorn defense, they're solid as well. It's going to be interesting to see how Noah Biden plays today against a defense that's a lot better than what he saw a week ago. I think that Grambling can keep this thing close. Ultimately, I like Alcorn to win it, but I think Grambling can make this thing very, very interesting.
BJ, I heard from a Grambling night last weekend. He was smiling because we didn't give Grambling State a chance against Alabama A&M. So he had to remind me, and he told me to remind you that, hey, our predictions were off. Hey, that happens. That happens when you're predicting games sometimes. But yeah, but this Alcorn State football team, I know they've kind of had some injuries on defensively. What has to happen for this Alcorn State? I guess my thing is, I'm wondering, and right now it seems like Alcorn State, this team is perhaps not as good as the team, of course, in 2018 and 2019. Is that fair to make that observation right now?
Work in progress. I don't think that no one outside of Prairie View looks as good as they did in 2019. I think teams are now about to start hitting that mid-season form. As you can remember, Alcorn didn't look as good in 2019 at the beginning of the year as they did at the end. So I think that, it's going to be a work in progress. I think Alcorn will eventually get there, and this game is crucial. Western Division contest, no one can afford a loss. If you're Grambling, you lose this one. Now you have 2 losses in the division. You're looking up. So this game is going to be so important. But Alcorn, no, they're not to 2019 form yet, but it's a possibility that they may get there.
Potential-wise, they can get there. But I'll tell you now, those Alcorn State team 2018 especially, to me, was the best one. Debatable about 2019. And good, excellent point about as a work in progress right now. And speaking of a work in progress, but Prairie View A&M 3-0 in conference play so far, but the meat of their schedule as far as in the Western Division is coming up against Southern University and Alcorn State. But Prairie View should feel pretty good right now, BJ, as far as what they've done in conference play.
Oh, absolutely. Prairie View they have looked the part, and they're doing it offensively, defensively. They're physical, which has been a knock on Prairie View in the past. So far, man, that they look like a team that could be playing for something in December. It's going to be interesting to see, like you said, on the road at Southern, on the road in Norman, Mississippi against Alcorn State. They got a couple of football games coming up. Prairie View does.
Well, and Prairie View A&M 3-0, of course, in the Western Division. Alcorn State 1-0, Southern 1-0, Grambling State 1-1, Texas Southern 0-1, Arkansas Pine Bluff 0-2. Now, BJ, on Tuesdays on Twitter, you release your top 5 HBCU football teams. Let's talk about it here on today's show. Your top 5 football teams.
So at number 5, I currently have Florida A&M. After that win that they had against Alabama State, in the number 4 spot, help me, Carlos. I think in the 4th spot was, I think it was Alcorn.
I don't remember.
Hold on, I'll tell you really quick. I can actually go back to that. Because I'm already starting to think about who I'm going to have this week. But FAMU was in the top spot. Was in that 5 spot. And the reason I had them at 5, I originally had Alcorn a week ago. But what I looked at what FAMU was able to do against Alabama State, and if you look at that one loss who was to number 1 Jackson State, who currently I have at number 1, and that was a 1-point loss. I had Prairie View at 5. I dropped Alabama A&M down to number 4. After that loss to Grambling State, they were previously number 1. Number 3 is North Carolina A&T. I like the way that football team looks. 2, the Panthers are Prairie View A&M, and then 1, right now the Tigers of Jackson State.
Yeah. Well, any disagreement on Twitter? Really, listening to it, I can't see. You might can make as you stated with Alcorn State not being in there, but I think it's pretty solid.
Most of the disagreement, believe it or not, that I've gotten have been from people from North Carolina A&T saying, hey, A&T should be 1. And I'm like, I'm not going about who's the top program of the last couple of years. I'm looking at 2020 only. Yeah. North Carolina A&T lost to Furman, who's not a really good football team. We can excuse the losses, the loss to Duke. They did look impressive a week ago. The thing about it is top 5 is week to week. And we are in early October. It's all going to play out, people. Don't get too tied up on who's who where. Everyone's going to play each other. They're going to be going to move up, move out, drop in, drop out. It's all going to work itself out.
Yeah, and you're right. Still a lot of football left to be played. I see BJ Norfolk State on some polls. They've entered the poll. They have a bye week this week. Of course, North Carolina A&T and North Alabama today. But in the conference, as we close out this segment, Jackson State at Alabama A&M and Grambling State at Alcorn State. Let's see if I can put you on the spot. Jackson State and Alabama A&M. Who wins that ball game and who wins? I think you kind of told us about Grambling State and Alcorn. So Jackson State and Alabama A&M. Who do you have winning this ball game?
I've been going back and forth on this one. Ultimately, I like Alabama A&M. I think that them being back at home for homecoming, coming off that loss was exactly what they needed to kind of refocus. I like Alabama A&M. I think offensively they might be a little bit too much. We know defensively they're not the best, but that defense is opportunistic. They make plays when they have to, and it might come down to one of those big plays today. Grambling Alcorn, I like Alcorn State. I think it will be close. Now, this is going to be key, Carlos. If Alabama A&M wins today, the game of Huntsville next week against Florida A&M is going to be just as big as the one today. Because FAMU is all quiet. They're laying around the chicken coop. They can play themselves right back into this thing with a win. If Alabama A&M wins today and a FAMU win next week, now you got a 3-way tie, for first place in the Eastern Division. So it's going to be interesting, but we'll see. We'll see.
Last quick question from your conversations you've had. Is there more? I guess I put it this way: excitement or more conversation, maybe a better way to put it, between who's going to come out of the East or the West? Because I know on social media you have, the West is tougher and better. Eastern Division is better. What has that conversation been going on as far as Eastern Division, Western Division, the most conversation?
Right now it's the West with Alcorn State, Prairie View, Southern, and Grambling. I think that a lot of people are talking about the West, but I think it all depends on the school you are. Because the people from Alabama A&M and Jackson State and FAMU, all they can talk about is the East. The East coming down to one of those 3 schools. And then, we're talking about schools that may not be in it. They're going to play a part in it. Right now, everybody's in it. People forget about Alabama State. People forget about Texas Southern. Those teams, if they don't make it, still have a lot to say about who does. Because a loss from them hurts just like a loss from anyone else. So I think it's about even for the first time in a long time, Carlos. It's even. We're not just waiting for Alcorn to come out of the East and waiting for the value class to determine the West. I think we're going to have full competition on both sides, and I think it's going to come down to the wire in the Eastern and Western Division.
Still a lot of football left to be played, and it's going to be interesting this 2021 SWAC football season. And I made a comment earlier, and maybe I have to revisit it. I said because of BJ, all of the hype coming into the conference and in the football season, it hasn't quite lived up to the hype. But after this week and the next week, maybe I have to revisit that, and maybe I can say the actual football has lived up to the hype. But we'll see. We'll see. BJ, I appreciate the time as always. We'll talk with you next week. Have a great rest of your weekend.
All right, you have a good one too, Carlos. And like I said, it may not have lived up to the hype, but I think October will change that.
Yeah, I think you are right. That's why I said I may have to revisit that. But safe travels to you, BJ. We'll talk with you again next week.
All right, looking forward to you.
All right, that was Brandon BJ Jones of Inside HBCU Football. I'm looking. Where's Charles Edmond? I'm scheduled to visit with him next. A big ball game, of course, in Lorman, Mississippi, Alcorn State. It's homecoming for the Braves, and they're hosting Grambling State University. Coach Fobbs said on a conference call at one point that, hey, he wanted everybody to know in the last 10 games, they were sort of like 8-2 against Alcorn State. So it's interesting how one school matches up well with one school and then doesn't with the other school. Of course, you know me. I've made it a point of mentioning whenever I can Southern's anemic record against Alcorn State in his last 10-11 ball games. Hopefully, this year the streak ends for Southern University against Alcorn State. But before then, still a lot of football left to be played. You got to win the week, 1 week at a time. I'm going to take a timeout. When I come back, I'm scheduled to visit with Charles Edmond of the Alcorn State Radio Network and also read some more of your comments. The Coles Brown Show on the Black College Sports Network.
We don't duck and dodge. Ain't no heavy waters on my schedule. 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 Ain't no heavy waters on my schedule.
Just saying. With that, Coach Maynard, we're going to let you have the last word in terms of Alabama A&M fans. But anything that you want to share with the viewers, any last thoughts you want to share?
Did I want to share?
Yeah.
Oh, go Bulldogs! Hey, baby, y'all tune in ESPN this week, and we're gonna try to make you proud and give you a good show, offensive, defensive, special teams, and represent the way the Bulldogs represent.
Don't worry, it's all a part of the game. Tune in every Tuesday and Thursday at 6 p.m. Central, 7 p.m. Eastern for Dr. Cavill's Inside the HBCU Sports Lab. Course, lecture, dismissed.
Let's get back to getting ticks instead of watching flicks. Before we can safely get out there, we need the facts on COVID-19 vaccines. Visit getvaccineanswers.org so you can make an informed decision for yourself and for your crew.
For 200 years, Montgomery, Alabama has been making history by people who had the courage to stand up for change. Today, this riverfront city has been reborn, embracing the past and looking forward to the future. From the National Memorial for Peace and Justice to the stage of the Alabama Shakespeare Festival, this is where history was and is made. We are proud to call Montgomery home, and together, we can be the change.
Nope. Nope.
Come on, him?
Ooh, I like him.
Quick, the quicker picker-upper. Bounty picks up messes quicker, and each sheet is 2 times more absorbent, so you can use less.
He's an 8.
He's a 9.
Bounty, the quicker picker-upper.
Follow the Black College Sports Network on social media at MyBCSN1, the number 1, on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter at MyBCSN1.
Back to this week's edition of the Coles Brown Show right here on the Black College Sports Network. You see him now, a weekly guest, sometimes co-host Charles Evans of the Alcorn State Radio Network. Charles, it's good afternoon to you. How's it going?
Good afternoon. I didn't realize until about 4 hours ago that you changed times from 12 to 2 instead of, what was it, 11 to 1 instead of 10 to 12.
Yeah, Central Standard Time, a move for the team on the Black College Sports Network, at least to the rest of the football season. So, hey, I'm a team player, and you know, between Roy, Dr. Cavill, Brian, A.D., Neely, Charles Bishop, Brian Fover, and the guys over at the FAMU crew, as the way I call them. Hey, I just try to do my part. But guess what? There is a big game in Lorman today. Happy homecoming to Alcorn State. You got Grambling State in charge. Just quite simply, Coach Forbes has let me know over the years the success. Although they hadn't had success overall last few years, they've had success against Alcorn State. Go figure.
Yeah, yep. They've won 7 of the last 9 meetings between these two teams, Grambling has. And I think it's just a situation where lately Grambling's defense, you know, if you go back 2 years ago, you know, when we played them over there at Grambling, we had won 5 in a row. Felix Harper was red hot, slinging it all over the yard, and we go there. And even though we missed a field goal at the end, we had some chances. We were held to 16 points in 4 quarters in overtime. We lost 19-16 in one of the better low-scoring SWAC games you'll see. Grambling scored with 30 seconds left in the game to tie it up, and we just let it slip away. And so I think this is going to be a very intense matchup. And, you know, Broderick Fobbs, I talk with him all the time, and he wouldn't have it any other way. He said it's supposed to be hard. It's supposed to be tough. Let's see how his team stands up here on Alcorn's homecoming with a packed house, and considering what his team did last week, can they build on it? With Noah Bowden getting his second start at quarterback today, should be an interesting matchup with our defense trying to at least contain or at least derail this Grambling offense.
Yeah, I would agree, because when you look at the Alcorn State team, I think defensively, didn't you guys get some players back that had some bumps and bruises, and offensively, of course, you know, with Felix Harper and what he's been able to do. Will this game come down to a couple of factors, Charles? Special teams being one, but can Grambling State offensively with their freshman sensation, will he stand up to, I believe, the pressure that Alcorn State is going to try to bring defensively?
Well, I think clearly, you know, Grambling had the edge a little bit, especially last week, and Bowden getting his first start. I mean, I think what he was able to do after his team was down 14-0, getting his first start against the SWAC champs at home was something pretty special, because Grambling was down 14-0 in that game in a blink of an eye. And then once the offense got going, you know, second, third quarter, they weren't stopped. I think the Braves have some good film on them, some good intel. And the question is going to be now, what's going to take place in terms of how you make that adjustment from one game to the next. And I think that's going to be, you know, the key matchup, I think. But probably the more important matchup is going to be our offense against Grambling's defense. I mean, let's just be honest. And for most of the first half and into the third quarter, Alabama A&M's offense was in check pretty good, albeit self-inflicted wounds with 6 turnovers in the game. And, you know, you knew at some point the turnovers, they've been happening, I think, off and on for a while at A&M, but it just caught up with them last week. You know, so, but Grambling took advantage of it and had good field position all game long. So we'll see how this defense Gremling's defense matches up against a high-flying Braves offense, in which in the second half, they scored 33 points in the second half against Pine Bluff. If they can pick up where they left off 16 days ago, I think the Braves will win this game going away, but it's going to be a lot tougher defense we're looking at today.
Charles, it seems like the last couple of weeks, I'm always, I like offense. I like being able to throw the football when you're able to do that. But of late, I've been thinking that running game, and being balanced offensively, in that second half of Alcorn State, weren't they able to be able to start running the football more? And how important is that going forward for this Alcorn State football team, of course, like today?
I mean, it's important for this team every week to be able to run the football. I talked with offensive coordinator Elliott Radden. One of his favorite phrases is we're going to run that football. And the one thing that I must say the Braves do that, based on my 4 eyes and the eyeball test, that other teams don't do quite as much, the Braves continue to run the football even when it's not effective. They continue to stick with the run, whereas other teams kind of bail out of the run. And when it's not working after a couple of series or 3 series, they just sling it all over the place, and that works to their detriment. In the first half, we could not run the football. Felix Harper was a statue in the pocket. You got to give Pine Bluff credit for really crashing the pocket. But in the second half, they were able to roll Felix out left and right, create some throwing lanes, and then that opened up the running game. Nico Duffy got going. The running game got going. And when this Braves team can run downhill and run the football with effectiveness, it just opens up everything else. And in part, that's the reason why the Braves were so effective in the second half against Pine Bluff. And it's going to be tough sledding running the football against Grambling today. I mean, they're very physical. They got after Glass pretty good. They hit them pretty good. So Felix Harper's going to have a clean pocket. He's got to create some separation and make some things happen because Grambling's coming for him. But I think Felix Harper has an answer.
Visiting with Charles Edmond of the Alcorn State Radio Network and our SWAC Sports Report. We'll come back, Charles, to more of Grambling State and Alcorn State. Kind of get your thoughts on last week's ball games. The schedule went like this, of course. South Carolina State over Bethune-Cookman, 42-35. Of course, we were just talking about Grambling State over Alabama A&M, 37-28. Texas Southern gets on the winning column over North America, 69-0. Charles, I've never, and I had Ryan McGinty on earlier. I forgot to ask him about North American University. I guess I'm gonna say University. Never heard of it before.
Neither have I. I have no idea who they played. I know the score, and I have no idea. And I don't think very few people know who they played or know about who they played. I get it. I understand what the concept behind it. You see this from time to time, probably more so with TSU. They play the Ecclesias of the world and others in football. They just want to taste a victory. And it doesn't matter who you play, D2, D3, NAIA, you just want to taste a victory because TSU has not had that success. I get it. And we'll see today against Southern University where they can build upon that. Was that a fallacy last week, or is there something to it? If you look at what they did last week, we'll see.
Well, you know what, Charles? Earlier, someone asked me about this ball game, and I said I'd go on a hunger strike if Southern University would lose the ball game today. I better not make that statement because stranger things have happened. Because I look at this Texas Southern football team when they made the switch to body at quarterback and to put up, albeit playing up against a not a very good Rice team. But hey, they were able to put up, and it seems like to me that's when this team kind of changed and got a little, got some momentum. So hey, you can't take anybody for granted. What's the old saying on any given Saturday, Charles?
Any given Saturday, anything can happen. And there's precedent for this too, Carlos. I mean, look at what Alcorn was able to do with South Alabama, the week before. And even though we stumbled a little bit against Pine Bluff early, we got it going. So yeah, there is some precedent about gaining momentum when you play up like that. And we'll see if that leads to much of anything.
Well, and speaking of much of anything, last time we saw Mississippi Valley State, 38-25, lost to Southern University, and I felt like it was almost a loss. Glad to get the win, and then Mississippi Valley State comes out and beats North Carolina Central 17-16. You know, we always say Mississippi Valley State's going to come up and beat somebody one day. They were able to do it. You know, they always play hard. You love Coach Dancy. They were able to do it, y'all, 17-16 over North Carolina Central.
Well, I gotta give AD Drew, gotta turn the clock back to media day. He made a prediction that no team in this conference would go winless. And you know, if you look at what Valley did last year, their struggles over the years in winning a game, that prediction came true. As I saw the finish of that game, it was wild. I mean, it was a crazy finish. It was on Valley's homecoming. You know, congratulations to Valley, Coach Dancy. You know, very underrated coach, one of the hardest working coaches that you'll ever find. Nice guy. You know, you're happy to see that program do some good things. If they get Cookman today, we go to Valley next week, and no telling what Rice-Titan Stadium gonna look like next week when we go up there for a 3 o'clock kickoff. So it's gonna be very interesting to say the least.
And I would agree, Charles. FAMU, I got a chance to listen to some of that ball game. Defensively, FAMU was nasty. They shut out Alabama State 28-0. And, you know, kind of the last time you saw FAMU in a big moment, the opening game, in the Orange Blossom Classic. You talked about even then, defensively, you saw the potential, and offensively, you just had to decide on the quarterback. Quietly, Coach Simmons has gotten it done, but a big victory over Alabama State. And hey, next week, Alabama A&M hosts FAMU.
Yes. I will say this, you know, about Alabama State. I'm really kind of disappointed in the defensive effort, but I'm also disappointed, probably more so in the lack of offense for Alabama State. You know, we were kind of riding that train in the spring. What they did against Jackson State, they were scoring points, and for them to lay a goose egg, obviously got the attention of Dr. Ely and the administration. Bama State made a change in changing out the offensive coordinator there, so Dr. Ely obviously feels like a change needed to be made. You know, those two programs, 3.5, 4 hours away, pretty good rivalry, and for Bama State not to get off the bus offensively is kind of disappointing, and so their change was made there. But I tell you what, Florida A&M getting their legs under them. I mean, they're scoring some points. Their defense is getting a little more stout. And I said FAMU in the East. I'm going to stick with that despite their loss to JSU early. Looks like FAMU starting to hit their stride a little bit.
Charles, plenty of us had FAMU coming out of the East. And some listeners, some watchers of the show, hey, they've let me know already that, hey, that prediction is not going to hold up. And my answer was, hey, it's still plenty of football left. So we'll see. I'm busy with Charles Emmett of the Alcorn State Radio Network. He's live in Lawrence, Mississippi, as you can see, in the broadcast room. I think, Charles, I've been in that room plenty of times. Not a happy camper. You know, Charles, you look for me, I was gone. Huh? I'm getting the heck out of Dodge.
I turned back one day. I said, my buddy Carlos Brown is here enjoying the game. Carlos, how you feeling? And I heard nothing but crickets. You were gone. You had already left the scene. You already left the scene.
Yeah, and not a happy camper, and you know, fireworks going on. That was 2018 SWAC championship game, and you know, hey, I'm going to the Celebration Bowl anyway, but it's nice to see your alma mater there. But Alcorn State stopped them 2 years in a row, and then the last time I was there, a regular season game, cold, rainy. Wow, just been a tough place, but a beautiful university. Charles, this week game, Jackson State, of course, at Alabama A&M. We're going to kind of get some predictions now from you. UAPB, got a lot of 2 p.m. games at Alabama State. Grambling State at Alcorn, of course, 2 p.m. 4 p.m., Southern University and Texas Southern. Mississippi Valley State at Bethune-Cookman, that's 4 p.m. I guess that's Eastern Standard Time. And, of course, South Carolina State at FAMU at 5 p.m. Okay, Jackson State, Alabama A&M. probably the game of the week, most would say. How do you see this ball game going, Charles?
And even though Alabama A&M clearly, 6 turnovers last week offensively, defensively, they were shredded a little bit. And Carnell Maynard said they got to fix that. They got to fix the turnovers. I think defensively, they got to get it fixed long term, but it's not going to happen this week. Although I do think A&M is going to win the game, and I'm only saying that A&M is going to win the game because they're at home. If the game were in Jackson, I would say Jackson State would win the game. But I think A&M will fix it defensively just enough, and I think offensively they'll score. Even though JSU's defense is stout, let's not sell that defense short. We have yet to see a team really slow down A&M. They had 6 turnovers and still almost had 30 points last week against Grambling. So I think A&M will win the game. That's my prediction, although I don't see a lot changing on the defensive side of the ball. It's hard to slow down Glass or even shut down Glass for that matter. A&M at home.
Well, I've kind of been going back and forth with this game in my head all week. You know how I feel about Jackson State. I love them to death. Their fan base is just like Southern University. One of the things that I looked at, and I really believe Jackson State, can they get more out of the running game? O-line is underachieved, many have stated, but that's going to be one key. Can they, if they can average 3 yards, 3 to 4, and that may be a tall task, boy, I think that makes them that much tougher. Jackson State defensively play a lot of man coverage, going against the most explosive offense, one of the most explosive offenses in FCS. Will they mix it up a little bit? Alabama and them coming off a loss, and I thought maybe they were looking ahead, Charles, a little bit, but Grambling State played well, took advantage of opportunities. You look at the coaching matchups, all of the, the jaw jacking before the game. It's got to be one on the field. Charles, I'm really leaning toward Jackson State because defensively, they can get some turnovers, and that defense is really, really good. I have to give credit where credit is due. The key is going to be, can they provide some balance? If they're able to run the football, that takes some of the pressure off of Sanders Jr., which I like to call him sometimes. And then Alabama A&M defensively, they're not that good, Charles, but can they play their best game of the season? Guess what, Charles? I'm with Jackson State on the road. Can you believe that? I think it's going to be a close one. I know you're shocked, Charles. Go ahead.
I am, and the other reason why I'm not picking Jackson State is because Shedeur Sanders was banged up, and to your point about the running game, Jackson State, and I've said this boldly, and it's true. Jackson State hadn't had a running game in a decade. They have yet to run the football with any consistency for the last 10 years. And that's been a part of their problem. You have Ivy, you have Sanders. It doesn't matter who's back there at quarterback. You can't run the football, you're in trouble. And I think Jackson State has to be able to do that, at least stay committed to it enough to keep the defense honest. You sling it all over the yard, you are asking for trouble. When you throw the football, 3 things can happen, 2 things are bad. So you all know how that works. And if Sanders is banged up, if the running game can't get it going, they're forced to pass the football. I think it's going to be a tough day for Jackson State. That's why I have A&M winning the game. That and the fact that they're at home.
Jackson State averages 3 yards today running the football. And an excellent point. If you got to be committed to doing that. Yeah. And if you start off not run the football well, still be committed to it, because if you have to face a team offensive that potentially can be balanced, it gives you much more. But I guess I shocked you, Charles, taking Jackson State in this ball game. UAPB at Alabama State. UAPB, I don't know what to think, Charles. It's not playing well. came in with a chip on their shoulder after winning the spring, and prognosticators had them deep down in the standings. But I guess the prognosticators seemed to know something that others didn't. But they had Alabama State. Alabama State tends to play better at home. They got shut out in their last game. Boy, this is a toss-up, Charles. Who wins this ball game?
I'm gonna give it to UAPB just because of the experience with Perry, and even though he was benched against Prairie View, I think with this new offensive coordinator for Bama State, I think it's gonna be a work in progress. I think it's still gonna be a struggle for them to score, albeit at home. I think UAPB clearly has the weapons, but I think they don't always execute, and they don't always stay committed to the run either, just like what we've been talking about. But I think they've got more weapons. I think they're just a better football team, albeit they've lost 2 very tough games in conference. I'm still going with UAPB. Bama State's got some work to do.
Yeah, UAPB, you said it, has all of the weapons. And Doc Gamble, don't gamble so much, in the ball games. And I just think UAPB is a better team, although Alabama State tends to play better at home. We'll come back to Grambling State and Alcorn. Southern and Texas Southern. Now, we're talking about on this segment about teams not committed to the run, not running the ball well. Well, you look at a team that's been the best running team the last 2 years. Passing it has been a problem consistently in the past, but now with McDaniels and Charles, you saw that text message I sent to you, and McDaniels is the starter going forward, but Charles, Skelton will play. He will play, and I think at multiple positions. You'll see this Southern team want to establish a run right off the bat, and they're able to do that. They're going to keep Texas Southern explosive offense off the field. I like Southern University in this ball game, but hey, they can't underestimate Texas Southern University. But the running game should be clicking today.
Yeah, I have Southern winning the game. I mean, I think they're just a better team overall. But I tell you what, as I say this all the time, if you play around with it, if you play around with Texas Southern, they're going to beat you. And even though that's a tough statement to make considering what they haven't done, which is win games, I think TSU feels like they can get it done. Southern's the better team, and McDaniels will get the start. You and I have been texting about that. You know my stance on it. And I'll say this: if Southern wants to get to where they really want to go, they're going to need Skelton. And whether he catches a pass, whether it's with his legs at quarterback, Skelton will be a big part of this thing at the end of the day for Southern University. I understand you go with the hot hand. I understand you go with the pocket passer. I get it. I get all of that. And Skelton just scares me. And I'm not saying that because we had success against him. His athleticism you have to account for. And so if McDaniel struggles in the pocket, if TSU gets heat on him, then what are you going to do? You're going to go back to the more mobile quarterback in Skelton? That could happen. Maybe not. I don't know. But we'll see if Southern can stretch the field, if they can commit to the run, then yes, it works to McDaniel's favor, because then all the tools are available to you at receiver and tight end when you can run the football.
Charles, it almost sounds like it's painful when you talk about Skelton. He won't play. I envision him in the backfield on times. Can we just give him a taste of Hill package and call it the Darius Skelton package? And McDaniels is a dangerous man. You talk about, Skelton scares me, but in a different way than the way you're talking about. But hey, he's going to be needed. McDaniels in that running game, it just opens up so much. But we both like Southern in this ball game. Mississippi Valley State at Bethune-Cookman. Bethune-Cookman needs a win in the worst way, Charles. I like them because they're at home. Bethune-Cookman gets their first win of the season, albeit I think it's going to be a tough ball game. They're at home. Bethune-Cookman gets it done. Valley plays them tough.
Yeah, this one is, I've been teeter-tottering back and forth. is the Valley win over Central enough of a momentum boost to where they can go to Daytona, make that long trip and beat Cookman? I'm gonna say no. I think Bethune-Cookman's going to be one of the toughest spoilers, one of the toughest outs the rest of this season. And we go to them next month in a game that's critical for us. I'm gonna go with Bethune-Cookman in this game. They're at home. I think Valley will play with a lot of heart and a lot of pride and a lot of grit. But at the end of the day, I think Valley's gonna have to score some points, and I don't see it happening today.
Last but not least, two teams that are familiar with each other. South Carolina State at FAMU. You know, South Carolina State, you always talk about a tough team, physically, Coach Pugh. They know FAMU. FAMU at home against South Carolina State. I'm going to go with FAMU. They're going to get it done. If they're able to run the football, and we've been talking about that a lot, teams having to commit to the run and getting it done on there. I think FAMU is the better team, but this is another one that's going to be a tough ball game. But if that same FAMU defense shows up that showed up last week, it could make it awfully tough. But I think the game will be close, but I think FAMU will be able to hold serve at home.
Yeah, I think this is going to be one of the more higher scoring games of the day. To be honest with you, we've seen South Carolina State can score. Like Florida A&M has found a little bit of a rhythm offensively. It's going to be an entertaining game. I'm going with FAMU probably 31-29. A high scoring game. FAMU will win, probably a field goal at the end.
Well, those are the games for this week. And Charles, now last week we didn't get a chance to talk about it. Alcorn State and decide to move in another direction with Horn. I'll just ask this: is there a timeline that the university would like to name a permanent AD to put in place, or is it an ongoing situation?
Well, we announced yesterday that Cyrus Russ, who is our compliance officer, has been named interim athletics director. And I spoke with Cyrus Russ the other day. I'm working on some other stuff and, looking forward to the opportunity to get some stuff done. And I kind of heard his name, throughout the whispers there that he probably would be named it, and he was. So I don't have a timeline in terms of when a permanent AD will be named. But for right now, I think Cyrus Russ will do a good job. He's been doing some of the day-to-day stuff, even when Derek Horn was athletic director. He was doing some of the day-to-day stuff. So I think for Cyrus Russ, he just kind of slides on into that position. I think he'll do a good job, and as they say, keep the truck in the middle of the road.
I understand that. We've got about 5.5 minutes, 6 minutes left. I'm going to add AD Mississippi Valley State fan Drew. He has some update on some scores. AD, what you have?
What's going on, fellas?
How you doing, AD?
Speaking of Mississippi Valley State, if you're a bet man, Mississippi Valley State is getting 11 points at Bethune today. Might be something you may want to invest in. Mississippi Valley really hasn't had a problem scoring this year, so I'm taking that 11 points at Mississippi Valley State. But that's not what we're on here to talk about right now. just giving some quick scoring updates. In Big South action, 12 minutes ago in the second quarter, North Carolina A&T 10, North Alabama 7.
Close.
And everything else is going on is in the CIAA. It's raining up in Virginia. Virginia Union is up 16-0 over Lincoln in the second. Winston-Salem up 16-0 over Johnson C. Smith in the second. Shaw 9, Fayetteville 6, 5 minutes remaining in the second. And with 3:42 remaining in the second, Bowie 7, Shawan 3, but Shawan is driving on Bowie. They have the ball in the Bowie red zone. And if they score before we close out, I will let you know.
Well, Charles, Grambling State and Alcorn State. Alcorn State wins the ball game. 3 keys to victory for Alcorn State this afternoon.
Got to be able to stay committed to the run. Got to be able to put some points on the board against this Grambling defense and wear them down. And we have to be better on special teams. Gave up a 65-yard kickoff return to Pine Bluff. Had a punt block for a touchdown against Pine Bluff. Got to clean that up if we're going to beat some of these better teams in the conference that we got coming up. The Valleys, the Gramblings of the world, the Texas Southerns and the Southerns. Got to be able to clean up the special teams if we're going to get to where we want to go.
Special teams, I would agree with you on that. Also been the theme in this segment. Teams committed and being able to run the football. In other words, Charles, a balanced team is a winning team offensively. You got to be able to do both. Dwight says, good afternoon, franchise. Good afternoon. Janice says, go Jags. Johnny Johnson says, Jags 37, TSU 17. Interesting to say the least. Charles, one thing, I think I'm putting pressure on Southern's defense. I want to see more consistency, and they've got to perform better. Starting today, defensively, tackling has been an issue. Gap control, gap integrity has been some of the things Coach Rollins has talked about. Today, you want to see these things starting to happen as far as getting that defense playing more consistently going forward, Charles.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, they jumped out on McNeese, couldn't hold it. I mean, so you clearly see, some positive signs on one side of the ball for Southern, but it's about playing a 4-quarter game. And if that defense wears down, and we've seen that when, I hate to go back to Alcorn Southern, you clearly see that when the Braves are gashing and they're running the football with effectiveness, it's hard for anybody to slow them down, including Southern. So I think what you got to do if you're Southern University, you got to get after that quarterback, got to get off the field, and then just kind of manage the game from there. Get off to a good start. I mean, they did that against McNeese. Now they have to build on it against Texas Southern.
Putting together 4 quarters. That's their goal, and that's the benchmark that they just have to meet. And I knew you would bring up an example of Alcorn State and Southern, but I'm not going to fall for it. I'm not going to get the blood pressure up and excited about that. Hey, it is what it is. And Alcorn and Southern, if things go in the right direction, that could be a huge ball game coming up in November. But before then, each team has games before then, and they got to take care of business week in and week out. Charles, got 1 minute left. Closing comments about this segment in today's ball games.
Well, keep in mind, and one thing when we talk about these games like Alcorn, Grambling, Jackson State, and A&M, they're conference games, but they're interdivision games. They actually count twice if you think about it. A&M's back is against the wall. Jackson State can pretty much knock them out with a win today. In this game here, we're in the West. Grambling's got a loss. This game counts twice for someone. So keep that in mind as you look at these conference games. I think it'll be a fun Saturday in the SWAC today with all these games starting pretty much the same time.
Well, that's going to do it for today's show. Remember, it's 11 a.m. to 1 p.m. Central Standard Time, 12 noon to 2 p.m. Eastern Standard Time for the rest of the football season, which will carry us into December. One thing, Ryan.
Before we go,
okay, go ahead.
A&T has to increase their lead to 17-7 with 11 minutes to go in the second period.
That was quick. A&T trying to make some more statements. They're saying they're the best football in several of our polls, but JSU has that number one spot. Now, I want to thank Ryan. Go ahead. You got something else, AD?
I was going to say, looks like the Bowie State defense has held. Looks like Shawan is getting ready to attempt a field goal with just under 2 minutes to go. And if we can hold on for 30 seconds, I can tell you whether this field goal is good before we sign off.
Special teams. How important.
These are the top two teams in the CIAA, Bowie and Shawan.
Well, I tell you what, Carlos, I mean, quickly, we look at these polls, A&M dropped in the polls. I thought they would probably drop no more than 5th in these polls. It looked like that turned out to be the case, 4th in some, 5th in others. I didn't see them dropping below 5th, even though they lost last week.
And the kick was no good. Bowie remains up 7-3 over Shawan with 1:28 remaining.
Right. Thanks for that update, AD. Want to thank AD Drew, also producer of today's show, Ryan McGinty, sports information director at Texas Southern University. He joined us en route to Arlington, Texas. Morel Mo Carter of WZDX, Fox 54 in Huntsville. Brandon B.J. Jones of Inside HBCU Football, and of course, Charles Edmond. Make sure you tune in next Saturday at 11 a.m. Central Standard Time, 12 noon Eastern Standard Time for the Coles Brown Show right here on the Black College Sports Network. Until next time, as always, peace and God bless.
Carlos, gotta go.